We are Gold Ivy.
Our mission is to empower you to own and unleash your truth.
Stories of resiliency are gold, and ivy grows in hard places.
Those hard places are what creates space for light to shine through.
You decide what works for your daily life and how to transform our lessons into your gold.
This is Ivy Unleashed,
a Gold Ivy production. Welcome back to Ivy Unleashed. This is a solo episode with just me, Andrea, and I don't think I've ever been this nervous to record an episode. I first have to give a trigger warning because this episode is going to be about miscarriage. I'm going to be sharing the story from 2017 when I lost my third baby. I want anybody that is not ready to hear this or it doesn't feel like the right time to please excuse yourself. You do not need to listen to this. I've just really felt compelled and convicted to share this in case it could help someone. And so if this is not the right time for you to hear this, or you just don't feel like you're in the right space to, I completely understand and feel free to turn this off. In 2017, when I found out I was pregnant for the third time, I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. Cora's my 3-year-old, Griffin's my 1-year-old, and Justin and I felt like we were ready to start trying again for a third. In our mind, 3 was the number. He's from 3. I'm from a family of 3, and it really felt like this would be the completion of our family. And so I became pregnant January, February timeline, the beginning of 2017, and we turned on the video, held the pregnancy test, waiting to see what it would say, and it said pregnant, and it's on camera, and we're so happy. We're looking at each other. We're so excited. I mean, there's just that feeling that I know. I am so blessed that I've been able to see that. I know a lot of you listening haven't been able to see that and either hope someday you'll get to see it or are still trying to see it or have given up the hope of seeing it. And so that alone makes me emotional because I know so many women have been on such a journey. Best friends of mine, family members of mine, neighbors of mine. I mean, women everywhere. We go through so much when it comes to fertility and family planning and our bodies and our hormones. It is unbelievable what we go through. And so the weight of even seeing that, the most positive word you're looking for and hoping for, also comes with a big weight too of what is this going to mean? Is this baby going to be okay? Okay, what now? Okay, what's that timeline? There's so many questions that go through our mind. And so it's constantly this roller coaster of being elated and so happy and so grateful and then so scared, and then you just know things can go south. Throughout my first 2 pregnancies, I always paid attention when I saw any information about miscarriage or I heard somebody had a miscarriage, and I just had this compassion and this feeling like I need to pay attention here. Like, how are people coping? What is helpful? What to say, what not to say? I think deep down I had this feeling that eventually someday that might be me or it might be someone really close to me. And so whenever I heard miscarriage, I was just like always paying attention. And when you're pregnant, and especially in the early stages, you're so worried because you're just in the dark. It's a mystery. Like, is everything okay? And I won't know for weeks. Like, I remember being pregnant with Cora and having a positive pregnancy test and calling the doctor and just like needing to talk to someone. Like, what do I do now? Like, what do I do? And they're like, yeah, we're not going to see you till 10 to 12 weeks. And I'm like, wait, I have to wait 6 to 8 more weeks just not knowing if everything's okay? Like, what? And during this time, people just don't even tell people you're pregnant? Like, what in the world? That just blew my mind. And that's just not who I am. Like, I'm a person, if I'm going through something, I talk about it. And so anytime I've ever been pregnant, I have always told people very early because I knew I'm going to need to talk to this. I'm going to need support if something goes south. I'm going to have to stop working. Like, I'm not going to work through this. I'm not going to pretend I'm okay. And so with each pregnancy, I told people sooner. So with this one, I probably waited a couple weeks, like week 6 or 7. And then I was just like, I just got to tell people I'm at work or people are asking me to have a cocktail. I'm like, I'm just going to be honest. And I told people I was pregnant. I feel like in the midst of that, you should experience the joy. Like, even if something does go south eventually, like while it's good, feel it, embrace it. And I have had family members and friends that have lost babies, and they're like, I wish I would have celebrated more when I was pregnant, because eventually when it went south, like I wish I would have celebrated that time because it was so special. And so I was telling coworkers, I was telling family members, and something in my gut knew something was off because I felt so good. And with Cora and Griffin, I felt so nauseous. Like I felt hungover once 5 weeks hit. And I had an ultrasound scheduled at 9 weeks. And so from like 5 to 9 weeks, that whole month, I was like, gosh, this nausea is not setting in. Like maybe I'm pregnant with twins. I got twins in my family. Would that make things different? I have each gender, so it's not a gender thing. I knew I was nauseous with both of them. It was like almost the same pregnancy with both of them. And something in my gut was just questioning. And all you can do is have faith. Like there's nothing you can do but have faith and wait till your next appointment, which is just like baffling. So 9 weeks comes, ultrasound appointment is scheduled, and sitting in that waiting room, I just had this feeling, and even said it to Justin. I was like, I just feel like something's off. Like, I don't know why. And he just is like, ignorance is bliss. He's like, what? No, we're not talking like that. We're not talking like that. And so kids are at daycare. At this time, my sister-in-law was living with us, which is important down the road here. But we get into the ultrasound room, and at 9 weeks, you do not need an internal ultrasound. Like it's just external. And with the other 2 pregnancies, I had an ultrasound at 9 weeks, same time, a little bit earlier than some people because I do have twins in my family. And so they're like, yep, we'll get you in a little bit earlier. 9 weeks will work for us. So I get in there. I have the same tech that I had with Griffin. And she's super bubbly and talkative and gets so excited for you. And she's so sweet. And she starts doing the ultrasound, and she's quiet. And I'm looking at her, and my heart is racing. And Justin's, do. He's looking, trying to, he's all sciencey, so he likes to look at the ultrasounds. And she's really moving around. She is really having a hard time finding it. And it's like, it's early, so it's really little. And so sometimes it takes a little bit. And she's taking a long time. And she pauses, and she's like, you know what? I'm going to have you go to the bathroom. And we're going to do an internal ultrasound, which in my mind says something's wrong, because I knew exactly how far along I was. I had already been into the doctor's office, gave him a urine sample at exactly 5 weeks, and I knew that I should be 9 weeks, like based on the hormone level, based on the timing. I was like 9 weeks and 2 days to be exact. And I'm in the bathroom, and I'm like, I'm gonna go in there and get some bad news. Like I'm gonna go in there and get some bad news, and I need to brace myself for this. And you can't. You can try to do all the things, but you just can't. So I get in there, and she does the internal ultrasound, and it's silent, and it was the longest silence of my life. And I'm just looking up like, this is it? Like, she's not finding anything. There should be a heartbeat. There should be a little ninja coming down the screen moving around, and nothing is happening. She stops the ultrasound. She turns everything off, and she says, all right, you 2 can go wait in the waiting room, and the doctor will see you in a little bit. Nothing else. And so she leaves the room, and I look at Justin, and I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, what? What? Like clueless. He is so clueless what is going on, or he is a great actor. I'm like, Justin, something is seriously wrong. If everything was okay, she would have told us it was okay. You've been in here with me before. You know this is not how this goes. And he was just trying to be hopeful. And I think he was just trying to keep it together for me. And we go in the waiting room sitting next to someone who's like 8 months pregnant, which is a pretty tough sight to see when you know something's wrong with your baby. And then the medical assistant comes and gets me. She's like 7-8 months pregnant and walks me back and just silence and gets us into the room. And thankfully for me, this worked out really well for me. My doctor was very direct, very to the point, very much like not sugarcoating anything. She walks in, she sets down some paperwork, and she says, based off of your urine test, your hormone levels, right now you should be about 9 weeks and maybe some change. This baby has no heartbeat. This baby is maybe 6 weeks along. And from gathering this information, I would say this is a loss. And I'm just sitting there and I'm observing. I'm in shock. I'm listening. I'm like, loss. 6 weeks, 9 weeks, mind is going blank. And I just look at her and I'm like, this is my biggest fear. She's like, what's your biggest fear? I'm like, losing a baby? This is the worst. Nothing is worse than this. And she's like, listen, you have 2 options. This is what you can do. We can do some more testing. And if you think for some reason our timeline is off, I do not. I have the values from 5 weeks. I have the values from today. This baby has no heartbeat. We know that for sure. It was a thorough evaluation. It was a thorough ultrasound. You did an internal. So I already looked at the calendar. If you would like to do a DNC today, I have an appointment at 1 o'clock p.m. Otherwise, you can come back in a week and we can reevaluate. But from the facts here, from these numbers here, I'm considering this a loss. But this is ultimately your call. Which was really nice to have it laid out and to have the option of this can be done today. Like, I don't have to sit around and wait and guess. Like, I know that I'm 9 weeks and 2 days. I know this baby doesn't have a heartbeat. Babies have heartbeats by 7 weeks-ish. And everything in my body knew that the baby was not thriving inside of me. I had no signs of blood, though. I had no signs of like pain or anything like that. And before this, I had heard of a couple different people around my age that had miscarriages, and they started bleeding at home, and then the doctor they decided to go home. Like, I could have went home and just like let it naturally happen. And from those stories, it was horrific. It was so much blood. They never stopped bleeding. And then they never knew if everything was out. And so every time they went to the bathroom for the next couple of weeks, they would bleed randomly. And so it was like they're constantly wondering, is this miscarriage over? Like, am I going to stop bleeding? Is it out? Am I safe? Like, what's still in there? And I was like, if I ever have a miscarriage, I definitely want a DNC. I want to make sure everything is out and that I can just start healing. And so that was the decision that we made that day, knowing what we knew from the timeline, knowing there was no heartbeat, that we went home for about 2.5 hours, kids still at daycare, trying to nap and just like crying in bed together, waiting for the appointment at 1 o'clock. And contacted my sister-in-law who was working and let her know what was going on. And she picked up the pieces at home. She picked up my kids. She's like, I got it. Like, you just worry about you. You two just worry about you. I got the kids. They won't know a thing. And so that's all we had to focus on, was getting me to the hospital and taking care of this horrific situation that I wouldn't wish upon anyone. So you get there in the waiting room with a bunch of random people. And this is like where I think about women all the time, is like we're sitting with information in our mind, looking around, whether we're bleeding or we're feeling like we're infertile or we're in the midst of a miscarriage, and we just have to function in society with all these people asking us questions and talking to us like things are normal. Like, that waiting room was so weird. And you get in there and you have decisions you have to make of like, do you keep the remains? And, do you want anesthesia? And do you like all these questions that your brain has to think. And it's like, you are in complete shock. You are in the midst of trauma and you have to make these decisions because it's your body. And it is so wild. So I'm waiting. Justin says goodbye to me. I go in the waiting room and before I know it, I am out. I don't really remember falling asleep. And I wake up the saddest and emptiest I've ever felt in my life. I wake up to the sweetest nurse. What an angel. And she's just like rubbing my arm. I wake up and I look at her because I went to bed pregnant. I went to bed with a baby inside me and I woke up so empty and so sad. And she was like, oh, honey, you're so sad. And of course I was, but she was just like validating my feelings and being there for me. She handed me this little keychain that had a little butterfly on it after a bit of hanging out with me. And she was like, you're never alone. This baby will always be with you. Keep this with you. And anytime you see a butterfly, know that your baby is with you. And it was kind of weird in the moment because I didn't really know her. I was just so comforted by her being with me that I wasn't alone because I felt so alone and so empty because I'm in this recovery room. And it was just like a feeling I can't describe, a feeling like in complete shock of the dreams and the hopes I had 4 hours earlier to just feeling so empty and so sad and completely in shock. So I had to hang out there for a bit and then we got to go home. And by the time I got home and Justin got home, my sister-in-law had already made dinner for our kids and was playing with them and told them I had a tummy ache, so I had to go to the doctor and I needed to lay down when I get home. And we got to do their bedtime and put them in their cribs and toddler bed. And I was so happy I got to do that because that was the gift, right? That is like, I have 2 healthy kids that I get to put in their beds that are going to wake up in the morning. And that was like the biggest gift of the day, is going home to them, going back to my life of like, okay, wow, that was horrific, but I have this, like I have them. And so the next day they went to school or daycare and I just held their little blankies with me and I had to tell people. I had to let people know what was going on. And nobody knew. I didn't say anything the day before. I was just in the midst of going through it. I just wanted Alicia to know, and I wasn't ready to say anything. I didn't know what was going to happen. And I started just texting people because I didn't feel like I could talk about it yet. And so I texted my mom to call me, actually. I did tell my mom over the phone. But the rest of my friends, I just let them know, like, I want you to know what's going on with me. I'm not really ready to talk about it. Went in for the ultrasound, ended up having a DNC. And I'll give you a call when I'm ready to chat. And just got really sweet text messages back. Flowers in the mail, cards in the mail. My other sister-in-law, Christine, sent me a box of Kleenex and chocolates and a card that said, "This sucks." And I was like, what a nice gift. Because all I needed really was Kleenex and chocolate. And she wasn't trying to fix it. She wasn't trying to tell me this happened for a reason. She wasn't trying to tell me how to feel about it. She wasn't trying to give me hope for anything in the future. She was just saying, like, this sucks, and just seeing the moment for what it was, because it did suck. Part of it sucked. And my mom has never had a miscarriage, so she was like, oh, like she didn't know what to say, and she was so sad for me. And we just sat on the phone and cried, and that was also really great, just to cry with someone. And so work let me have time off. They were so understanding, so sweet, and I just got to have space to heal. And it's hard when you're in pain, you're bleeding, because I didn't know how long the healing process is, and it is well over a month of bleeding and shooting pains, which constantly reminds you, like, you're in the midst of like feeling okay, and then you get the shooting pain that reminds you that your baby's gone and what you've went through, and like the fact that you were out on a table in a surgical room, like, oh, just these thoughts. You're constantly reminded of them. And I had to figure out a way to be okay. I had to figure out a way to fill my cup back up and heal my body and heal my mind. And what really helped was getting outside. I couldn't walk fast. I couldn't run, but I could sit outside and I could get in the sunlight and I could pray and I could journal. And when I was ready, I could talk to friends, and those things really helped a lot. And it's just time. It's time of figuring out what you need and talking to people. And my support system was so great, constantly asking me, like, what do you need? What's helping you? What can we do? My friend Liz gave me a bracelet that said, nevertheless, she persisted. And so I put that on my wrist of just like, keep going. Like, you're still a mom and you're still someone that is important to take care of. And reminding myself I did nothing wrong, because in the midst of this, you know, I did have a family member ask me if I thought it was because I ran too much or exercised too much that I had a miscarriage, which is so hurtful to ever, like, people want to blame something. I think it's in our nature to have like a reason, a cause, and that is so hurtful. If I can give you any advice when someone's going through infertility, a miscarriage, is to just never try to blame something or find the answer. Like, you don't know the answer, and they don't need to feel any worse or have any blame for what happened. I wasn't even exercising during that time either, but it was just like so eye-opening. And I'm really grateful for the things that happened. I had someone like rub my belly and ask how the baby was. And it was like, I mean, that's what happens when you tell people too early. I hadn't seen her for a while. I came back to work. And so you have to do a bit more explaining when you tell people early. But I mean, the benefits outweighed it. I had people that could be there for me. And I had the support system needed to get through that time. I felt so held, and it's important. It's important to lean on your people and let them know, I'm having a really bad day. I'm having a really hard time. I cannot stop crying. Like, I need you to take my kids and go do something fun because I cannot stop crying. And, you know, they did see me cry, and I swear Cora knew something was up. Like, she was so extra sweet and like cuddly with me. It's so crazy how intuitive they are. So the coming days after that, I mean, this was March 14th that I had my miscarriage, and my son's birthday is March 19th. He was turning 2. So within 5 days was his birthday. And even before that, we had a birthday party planned in Madison, which is 4 hours away. And so we canceled that and just had a little party at our house. And I look at pictures from that time because we took pictures with him and we were celebrating him. And then it was, you know, St. Patrick's Day, which is like a big day for us. And, you know, wanted to keep things normal. So we took the kids to the park and there's pictures. And I just like, I think about women in pictures and how I bet so many times we're just smiling through pain and smiling through these like hard things we're going through and showing up. Like, we have to still show up for our other kids and our celebrations and our families and work. And it's just a testament to our resiliency as women, what our bodies go through and what we hold in our hearts and in our brains. Any woman listening, whether you've even started this process about thinking about having kids, we hold so much. And I just think women are superheroes and so powerful. And I just want to send you love for what we have to go through in order to create a family and the hardships that happen. And I know so many people that are struggling right now, and I just want to send you my love and know that this looks so many different ways, and we still have to keep showing up, and it is not easy. And since then, right, this has been years now. This has been 7 years, and most of the time I'm fine, and most of the time I'm not sad about it. I have another baby. Blair came the following Valentine's Day, and I wouldn't have her if I didn't go through this. And that is so hard to say because I would never want my life to look different because I love her so much, and she has brought so much joy and is like she's everything. But there's just always going to be something missing. The only way I can really put it in words is it feels like there's just this missing piece of your heart that nothing can fill. Nothing will ever fill. And I like to ask people what's helped them. I like to ask people, how did you get through it? What helps you? What do you think about? And there's so many different ways to view it. But when it comes to miscarriage, you have to think about what helps you heal. What thoughts really help you get through it. For me, what helps the most is honestly just feeling it. I out of nowhere, grief hits me and I get super sad about it. It's really rare now, but when it comes, it feels like a Mack truck. Like the 5-year anniversary of my miscarriage was such a hard day, and I did not see it coming at all. And I was like bawling in the shower and needed space and time, and I did not see it coming at all. And so what I've seen that helps is just like any hard time is to allow yourself to feel and cry and be sad. And I mean, it was the saddest day of my life. And so I know it's going to keep hitting me. And I think the biggest thing is to just keep giving it the space that it deserves. It was traumatic, and I just want to send my love out to everybody, and not just women, right? Anybody that's experienced loss or is struggling or is trying to find answers. I just want to send you my love. I want to thank you for listening. I really felt on my heart that I needed to share this story, even if one person feels seen or it helps them understand any part of their journey. I felt called to share this, and so I'm grateful to share my story in hopes that it helps someone. And it's part of my journey. It makes me who I am. It makes me the mother I am. It makes me the wife I am. It makes me more grateful for life. I understood how miraculous it was to give birth before this, but after this, it was even more of a miracle to understand how easily things can go wrong and the intricacy of the human life. It's just, I've never had more faith in God than the times of being pregnant or wondering what was going wrong. And so, as much as it was traumatic and horrific, it's been a beautiful journey, and I am so grateful for all of it. And I'm grateful for you for listening. I thank you for taking this time with me, hearing my story, and wherever you are on your journey, I send you prayers of love and peace and healing. Thank you.